If you're watching this, you've probably already finished Lies of P and seen the end credits scene. If you haven't,
Yo.
the scene reveals Giangio is also the legendary alchemist Paracelsus, who is returning somewhere to give his report on the Crot experiment. He also announces his intention to reclaim the Arm of God, and another key, Dorothy, strongly hinting at the Wizard of Oz being the baseline for future content. It ends by showing her lower half walking across the rooftop in Crot, before clicking her heels almost 3 times. Out of excitement for the idea of getting to play a dark Wizard of Oz Souls-like, I keep thinking about how Dorothy could fit into the Lies of P universe, and how she could be a key to a group focused on immortality. After going over some of the details that still stuck out to me, I've come up with a pretty speculative theory/prediction. There were 2 things I found kinda odd about the Dorothy scene. First, the way she's acting. Humming and strutting across the roof with all that death and destruction going on in the streets isn't exactly normal. It's kinda cold, unfeeling, almost inhuman. So what if she's not human? Well, what is she then? A puppet? Maybe. But puppets are a Crot thing, and Paracelsus seems to think he can find her wherever he's returning to. And wouldn't it be better if she were some artificial being with closer ties to Paracelsus? A homunculus is an artificial being created through alchemy that was first mentioned by name in the works of the alchemist Paracelsus. Would you look at that? Paracelsus described them as being almost like a natural-born human, but smaller. In fact, homunculus means little man or little person in Latin. Little people in Oz sure sounds like munchkins to me. And in the book, they are described as being the same height as Dorothy. My theory is Dorothy is a fully matured homunculus, while the munchkins will be incomplete or corrupted ones, mirroring how Geppetto's puppet is like the ultimate puppet, fighting a bunch of rampaging puppets in Lies of P. Dorothy is also an orphan in The Wizard of Oz, so this could be used as a creative way to explain why she's parentless. In his work, De Natura Rerum, Paracelsus goes on to say a fully grown homunculus can defeat enemies with great forceful victory, know all hidden and secret things, and are inherently talented in the arts because through art they are born, and therefore art is embodied and inborn in them, and they need learn it from no one. His writings also contain a recipe, and the least disgusting part of it involves feeding them human blood for 40 weeks while they're growing. I've previously theorized that the Dacia on Crot's train schedule is tied to Transylvania and vampires. As a bit of a bonus theory, I'd like to add that if Dorothy is indeed a creature that needed to be raised on human blood, she might have ties to Dacia as well. Getting back to their description, homunculi can fight well, can see through lies, and are natural artists. Those first 2 are on the nose for Lies of P, but you may be wondering why I included that last bit. The humming, while it definitely could be explained away in a number of ways, could also be seen as a hint towards the character's connection to music, which is an art. There's also the undeniably major theme of the use of color in The Wizard of Oz. The Yellow Brick Road, the Emerald City, which isn't actually emerald, Kansas is gray, Munchkins wear blue, Winkies wear yellow, and Quadlings wear red. Which leads me to my second thing I found odd about the scene. Dorothy's wearing an awful lot of red. Dorothy is wearing red slippers, which isn't surprising, but it is a choice, as even though they are the most recognizable version, the ruby red slippers were originally silver slippers until the 1939 movie. A fun bit of trivia, but it also means that unlike the majority of The Wizard of Oz, they have not yet entered public domain. The iconic ruby red slippers are protected by copyright until 2035. This means the devs will either need to license them or find a loophole to skirt around it. The company was faced with a similar situation with Jiminy Cricket, as the public domain cricket from the original book doesn't have a name, so Jiminy is technically original to the 1940 movie and is protected until 2036. To duck Disney, they changed his name to the just different enough Gemini. I think we all have a pretty good idea about what option they're going to pick. We'll come back to that. Dorothy is also wearing a red dress. First edition illustrations in the original novel did at times show her in a red dress, although she is noted to change into the blue and white gingham dress she is known for, shortly after landing in Oz. It's kind of an odd choice not to pair her most iconic shoes with her most iconic dress, unless they're trying to convey something with the red on red. I think commenter Twin Pixel nailed it a year ago on my Lies of P end credit scene breakdown video when they said it was to allude to Rubedo. Taking it back a step, Rubedo is a stage in alchemy's Magnum Opus, which is the procedure of creating the Philosopher's Stone from the prima materia. If you're familiar with Harry Potter or Full Metal Alchemist, you likely have some familiarity with the Philosopher's Stone. The stone is thought to be able to turn common metals into silver or gold, and also used to create an elixir of life, healing anything and granting immortality. The aforementioned process for creating it originally consisted of 4 colored stages, starting with black, then white, yellow, and finally red, red being Rubedo. The yellow stage is now commonly considered to be combined with the red stage, leaving the process with 3 stages, black, white, and red. There's a lot of alchemical lore out there on how exactly this is done or where the recipe can be found, but an interesting bit is that the Hermetic text, the Emerald Tablet, was often associated with being the key to creating the stone. Emerald anything is pretty easy to tie in with the story of the Wizard of Oz, with the Emerald City being such a major part of it and all. I think the ruby red slippers will actually be the just different enough and alchemy adjacent Rubedo slippers, swerve the previously mentioned copyright issues, and create a neat little tie-in. To expand on my homunculus theory and tie it to Twin Pixel's Rubedo theory, I'm predicting that Dorothy is a homunculus created as an attempt to create a living version of the Philosopher's Stone. She's either slowly becoming the stone personified and is in a Rubedo stage, or, since the stone is often described as red as well, is already the stone when we see her. Either way would explain why Paracelsus and the Immortals have an interest in her as a key. It's way too early and we have way too little information to be sure about any of these theories, but I feel pretty certain that the series will include at least the concept of homunculi and the Philosopher's Stone in upcoming installments. It would actually be kind of wild to continue with alchemy, humanity, and immortality being major parts of the story and not touch on these subjects. I'm also thinking this will lead to the introduction of another legendary alchemist, Nicolas Flamel. Alchemist fanfic has been written about him for centuries, and he is said to have created the Philosopher's Stone and achieved immortality for him and his wife. Unless you're American, then he created the Sorcerer's Stone.